You know, on this channel we talk a lot about great community fish, but I haven't done a worst of video. Today we're going through the posers. The ones that your local fish store will display as community fish, or Reddit will straight up tell you that they are fine, but we're gonna dive into where our tank becomes the fin-nipping, territory-claiming, stress-filled mess. First on this list are tiger barbs. These little guys are the classic case of looks can be deceiving. With their striking orange bodies and bold black stripes, they seem like the perfect addition to the vibrant community tank. But just like the schoolyard bully who gets into everyone's business, these little fish have a serious attitude problem. They're notorious fin nippers, meaning that any fish with long flowing fins, betta, angelfish, guppies, are prime targets for their bad behavior. Oh, but their aggression isn't limited to other species. Tiger barbs will also go after their own kind, especially if they're kept in small numbers. If you toss just a couple into a tank, you might find them constantly bickering and bullying each other, creating a toxic tank environment. It's as if they thrive on drama, and the more fish they can pick on, the better. Fish-keeping forums are full of tales of stressed-out aquarists who tried to integrate tiger barbs into a peaceful tank, only to watch them wreak havoc. While a larger school of tiger barbs, around 12 or more, might reduce some of their aggression by allowing them to direct it inward, don't expect miracles. Even then, there's still the hyperactive, easily bored species that love to chase and nip at anything that moves slower than they do or has really long fins. If you really must have them, the best advice is to give them a tank of their own or place them with very specific fish like rainbow sharks. That way they can duke it out amongst themselves or can be with fish that they don't care for. Angelfish are the aquatic equivalent of celebrities, beautiful, elegant, and always commanding attention. Their graceful long fins and majestic swimming style make them a popular choice for aquarium owners. But behind that heavenly appearance lies a surprisingly aggressive streak. Especially when these cichlids start breeding. Because when angelfish pair up, they claim territory like a couple claiming all the blankets in bed. They become fiercely protective, often chasing away or outright attacking any fish that dares to venture too close to their chosen space. Neon tetras? Yeah, they're just a quick snack. Guppies? Consider them out of luck. Angelfish are known to go from graceful to downright savage, and all in a matter of seconds, turning small community fish into potential meals while they're in the mood for it. Their territorial tendencies also extend to other angelfish, especially in smaller tanks. You'll often see angelfish chasing each other or picking on weaker members of their own species, adding an extra layer of stress to the tank dynamics. This behavior ramps up during breeding, when the aggression levels soar to new heights. In smaller, poorly arranged tanks, they can make life miserable for their tank mates. For those hoping to enjoy the beauty of angelfish without the aggression, consider giving them a large, well-planted tank where they can establish territories. I'm talking about at least a 4-foot tank. You want an example of this? Check out this incredible planted tank on Green Aqua's YouTube channel. I'm gonna leave a card at the top so you can check out the full video. Another good option is keeping them in a species-only tank where they don't have to share their personal space with other fish. It's a bit of a diva move, but hey, they're angelfish. What did you expect? Dwarf Gourami are the aquatic equivalent of that friend who's a blast to hang out with, until they're not. At first glance, they seem like the perfect community fish. Small, colorful, and generally peaceful looking. But Dwarf Gourami come with their own set of problems that can turn your tank into a dramatic soap opera. For starters, Dwarf Gourami can be unexpectedly aggressive, especially in smaller tanks where they feel like their space is being invaded. They're known to bully other fish, particularly those that are smaller or weaker, which can stress out your entire tank. It's like that friend who suddenly snaps because someone took the last slice of pizza. Unexpected, but the fallout is real. And honestly, I don't blame them. You might think their size would make them less of a threat, but don't be fooled. In the right, or wrong conditions, Dwarf Gourami can become territorial and overbearing. Then there's the issue of Dwarf Gourami disease, a viral infection that these fish are very prone to. The frustrating part is that this disease often causes sudden, unexplained deaths, which can be devastating for fish keepers. Imagine doing everything right, maintaining perfect water quality, feeding a balanced diet, only for your Dwarf Gourami to just die out of the blue. There's no known cure, and once your fish has it, there's little you can do besides watch it fade away. It's no wonder many aquarists prefer to avoid Dwarf Gourami entirely. If you're set on adding a Gourami to your tank, there are some better options. Honey Gourami and Pearl Gourami are much more peaceful and less prone to disease. They won't bring the same drama to your tank, and they're far less likely to pick fights with their neighbors. Bala Sharks are the quintessential example of why you should never judge a fish by the size at the pet store. When they're small, they seem like the ideal community fish. Sleek, peaceful, fun to watch, but don't be fooled by their juvenile size. Bala sharks grow fast, and they grow big. In just a couple years, they can easily reach 12 inches in length, making them far too large for most standard community tanks. The real problem with Bala sharks isn't just their size though, it's their need for space and company. These fish are social creatures, so they need to be kept in schools of at least 6. That's right, 6. And with each one growing to a foot long, that means you're looking at a tank size of at least 120 gallons minimum. For most fish keepers, that's a serious commitment, and it's no wonder many end up rehoming their Bala sharks when they can no longer accommodate this size. Bala sharks are generally peaceful, but they're also opportunistic feeders. This means that anything small enough to fit in their mouths is fair game, and that includes small fish in your community tank. They may not actively hunt down their tank mates, but if they're hungry and there's a neon Tetra swimming by, well, nature takes its course. They're also known to be jumpy and skittish, darting around the tank at high speeds and sometimes even launching themselves out of the water. If you're not careful, you could come home to find your Bala shark has made a bid for freedom and ended up on the floor. All in all, Bala sharks are better suited for large, specialized tanks where they have plenty of room to swim and won't outgrow their environment. While they may seem peaceful and easygoing, their sheer size and space requirements make them a poor choice for most community setups. If you're not ready to commit to a monster-sized tank, it's best to pass on these gentle giants. Rainbow sharks may look like a sleek and stunning addition to your community tank with their vibrant reddish fins and dark bodies, but don't let their cool appearance fool you. These fish can quickly turn from eye-catching to problem-causing once they get comfortable in your aquarium. One of the biggest issues with rainbow sharks is their territorial nature, especially when it comes to the bottom of the tank. As bottom dwellers, they have an innate need to claim space for themselves, and they will guard it fiercely. Here's the thing, that patch of gravel or hiding spot that your rainbow shark has claimed as its own, that's sacred ground, and any fish that dares to cross the line, particularly other bottom dwellers like loaches or corydoras, will be swiftly chased off. At first, this behavior might seem minor, but as rainbow sharks grow and mature, this aggression can become a real issue. They will tirelessly patrol their territory, stressing out their tank mates and turning what should be a peaceful community tank into a high-stress zone for everyone else. The problem gets worse as they age, and unfortunately, many fish keepers don't realize this until it's too late. When they're young, rainbow sharks might play nice for a while, but their aggressiveness tends to increase over time. The older they get, the more likely they are to assert dominance over the tank. If they're not given enough space, they'll turn into the aquarium equivalent of a cranky old neighbor, constantly chasing away anyone who gets too close and yelling, "Get off my lawn!" This makes rainbow sharks a tricky fit for most community setups. If you're set on adding one to your tank, you're going to need a large aquarium with plenty of hiding spots and enough room for other fish to stay out of the shark's way. Without the right environment, rainbow sharks can quickly become a source of tension in the tank, and even with all the right precautions, they may still not get along with other bottom dwellers. For most people, rainbow sharks are best left to specialized tanks where they can patrol their territory without causing too much drama. At first glance, Plecos might seem like the perfect solution for keeping your tank clean. They're marketed as efficient algae eaters that'll keep your glass sparkling and your plants free from gunk. However, once you bring a larger pleco home, especially a common or sailfin pleco, you might find that these cleaning machines come with a lot of baggage. Sure, they'll eat some algae, but they also grow massive, often reaching up to 18 inches in length. That's right, these tiny fish you bought to clean up after others might quickly become the largest, messiest member of your tank. Larger plecos produce an impressive amount of waste, which cancels out their cleaning abilities. Instead of just nibbling on algae, they can turn your tank into a poop factory, creating more mess than they clean. And it doesn't stop there. These fish are also known for their tendency to uproot plants as they forage for food. Remember that time you spent hours carefully rearranging your aquarium plants? Well, a fully grown pleco can undo all your hard work in minutes. You'll wake up one morning to find your beautifully aquascape tank turned upside down, with plants floating at the surface and decorations out of place. But even beyond their messiness, larger plecos simply grow too big for most home aquariums. A pleco that's a few inches long at the pet store might seem like a great addition, but when it's 18 inches and taking up half the tank, you'll start to realize the issue. It's not uncommon for fish keepers to rehome their plecos after they outgrow their tanks, but for many, it's an avoidable problem. If you're set on having a pleco but don't want to deal with the chaos of a larger one, consider a bristlenose pleco instead. They stay much smaller, around 5 inches, and they're less likely to cause trouble. Bristlenose Plecos are peaceful, efficient algae eaters that won't wreck your plants or outgrow your tank. Tetras often come to mind as peaceful schooling fish perfect for community tanks, but not all tetras are created equal. Some of these tiny fish are actually notorious for causing trouble, and the nippy varieties like Serpei tetras, blue tetras, and red-eye tetras can turn a harmonious tank into a stressful environment. These tetras have a reputation for fin nipping, and it's not just random behavior. Long-finned, slow-moving fish such as Bettas or Angelfish easily become targets for these tetras' relentless biting. Their constant harassment can stress out the more docile fish, causing them to hide, lose color, and even become sick. It's like the tetras are always looking for someone to pick on, and the more long-finned or slow-moving the fish, the more fun they have. This is especially problematic when these tetras are kept in smaller schools, as they tend to get bored and turn their attention toward their tank mates. Even within their own species, these nippy tetras can show aggressive tendencies, chasing and biting at each other in a constant competition for dominance. It's a chaotic dynamic that can disrupt the peace of your tank and lead to constant stress for all involved. The best way to deal with these fin-nipping tetras is to avoid them altogether if you're looking for a peaceful community setup. If you are determined to keep them, make sure you provide a large school of at least 8 or more to keep their attention on each other rather than the other fish in your tank. But be prepared. Even in large schools, these tetras can still cause problems. Gold gourami are the golden beauties of the fish world, often attracting aquarists with their shimmering scales and calm appearance. But beneath that dazzling exterior lurks a fish that can be downright brutal to its tank mates. Gold gourami are known for their territorial behavior, especially in smaller tanks where they feel crowded. They'll stake out their turf and defend it aggressively, often chasing or attacking other fish that get too close. This territorial behavior is especially problematic in community tanks with smaller, more passive species. Gold gourami don't just chase away their rivals, they can cause serious stress to their tank mates, especially slower fish that can't escape their pursuit. They're like the tank's bossy roommate who always has to have control over everything, leaving the others constantly stressed out and looking for places to hide. Their aggression isn't limited to small fish either. Gold gourami will also pick fights with similarly sized fish, making them a tricky species to integrate into a peaceful community setup. They're particularly rough with other gourami, so keeping multiple gold gourami in the same tank is often a recipe for disaster. If you absolutely must have gold gourami, make sure you're giving it plenty of space to establish its territory and choose tank mates that are fast enough to avoid its wrath. However, many fish keepers opt for more peaceful gourami species like the honey or pearl gourami, which bring the beauty of gourami without the territorial drama. If there were Olympics for aquarium fish, giant Danios would be the sprinters taking home gold every time. These fish are fast, seriously fast. They zip around the tank with incredible energy, making them one of the most active species that you can add to an aquarium. Here's the catch. Their constant need for speed can turn them into a major source of stress for other fish. Giant Danios are the definition of high energy, which means they're constantly darting back and forth, and this behavior can overwhelm slower, more peaceful fish. Imagine trying to relax while someone's constantly running laps around you. Exhausting, right? That's exactly what happens to other fish when the giant Danios are in the tank. Because of their hyperactivity, giant Danios are known to nip at the fins of slower-moving tank mates, turning their seemingly playful behavior into a stressful situation for slower, more relaxed fish like Bettas or Angelfish. This doesn't mean giant Danios are aggressive in traditional sense, as they're not trying to harm other fish deliberately, but their sheer speed and curiosity can make life uncomfortable for tank mates that can't keep up. Another thing to consider is their need for space. Giant Danios love to swim, well, constantly. To accommodate their active nature, you're going to need a larger tank, ideally something around 55 gallons or more. If they don't have enough room to stretch their metaphorical legs, they'll become even more restless, and that's when the fin nipping and chasing behaviors really start to show. In smaller tanks, their energy has nowhere to go, and that's when the trouble begins. If you're looking for a calm, peaceful community tank, giant Danios might not be your best bet. They can turn a peaceful tank into a fishy racetrack, causing stress to tank mates that just want to chill, man. That being said, if you've got the space and are putting together a tank of similarly fast-moving, robust fish, giant Danios can be a fun addition, bringing tons of energy and excitement to the tank. But if relaxation is the vibe you're going for, you might want to think twice about adding these speed demons to the mix. On the surface, Rosy Barbs look like the sweet, harmless neighbors of the fish world. Their soft pink hues and delicate appearance make them a popular choice for fish keepers. But just beneath that rosy exterior lies a bit of a troublemaker. Yeah, Rosy Barbs have a reputation as fin nippers, especially when housed in smaller numbers. This behavior can be a real issue in peaceful community tanks, particularly if you're keeping slow-moving or long-finned fish like Bettas or Angelfish. Fin nipping isn't just annoying, it can cause real harm. Constant fin nipping can lead to stress, injury, and even infections for the fish being targeted. It's like having that one friend who never learned about personal space, always poking and prodding until everyone's on edge. While Rosy Barbs may not mean to be malicious, their playful behavior often gets out of hand, especially in a tank that's too small or doesn't provide enough stimulation. One way to reduce their nippiness is by keeping them in larger schools, usually of at least 8 or more. In a bigger group, Rosy Barbs tend to focus their energy on interacting with their own kind rather than bothering the other fish in the tank. But even in larger schools, they're not the ideal choice for every community setup. In a tank full of fast-moving, similarly robust fish, they might fit in just fine. But if you've got more delicate species, introducing Rosy Barbs is a risky move. One thing to keep in mind is that Rosy Barbs are fairly active swimmers, meaning that they're gonna need space. Lots of it. They thrive in larger tanks where they can move freely without bumping into slower tank mates. If you've got the right setup and tank mates that can handle their energy, Rosy Barbs can be a colorful and interesting addition to your aquarium. Just be prepared for a little chaos if they decide to show their nippier side. The Chinese algae eater is one of the ultimate examples of deceptive marketing. On paper, they sound like a dream come true. A fish that tirelessly cleans your tank by eating algae, helping keep your aquarium spotless, but here's a reality check. Chinese algae eaters often start out as helpful little cleaners, but as they grow older, their behavior changes, and not for the better. As these fish mature, they tend to become more aggressive, especially towards other fish in the tank. Chinese algae eaters are known to chase tank mates, sometimes relentlessly. The situation becomes even worse when they develop a nasty habit of sucking the slime coat off other fish. For those who are new to fish keeping, the slime coat is an essential layer that helps protect fish from diseases and parasites. And when this coat gets damaged or removed, the fish becomes vulnerable to stress, infections, and all other sorts of issues. And yet, despite their name, Chinese algae eaters aren't even that great at eating algae once they get older. At this point, their algae eating abilities take a backseat to their more problematic behavior. And to make matters worse, Chinese algae eaters can grow quite large, up to 10 inches in some cases. As they grow, they become more territorial and are likely to stake out their spot in the tank, chasing away anyone who gets too close. This aggressive behavior makes them a poor choice for peaceful community tanks where harmony is key. In addition to their territorial behavior, their cleaning abilities decline over time, meaning that they're no longer even doing the same job that they were originally added to the tank for. So, instead of cleaning algae, they're causing stress to other fish, all while adding to the bioload of your aquarium as they grow larger. There are better options for keeping algae under control in your tank, from snails to more peaceful species like Otocinclus or Amano shrimp. In fact, I actually have a popular video where I rank the best algae eaters tier list style. I'll leave it in the card above so you can check it out. While Chinese algae eaters might seem like a good idea in the beginning, they're best avoided if you want a peaceful and functional community tank. Pea puffers are the quintessential example of how something so small can have such a big personality. Despite their cute compact size, barely reaching an inch long, pea puffers are not the harmless little critters they might appear to be. These tiny fish come with an attitude that can rival even the most aggressive of species, and pea puffers are highly territorial, so they don't hesitate to harass, chase, and even attack other fish that dare to cross into their personal space. Like they've got something to prove despite their miniature stature. Their aggressive tendencies make them a nightmare in community tanks, where peace and harmony are often the goal. What's worse, pea puffers aren't content with just a little playful chasing. They'll actually go as far as killing tank mates if they feel threatened or crowded. Keeping them with other species in a traditional community setup often leads to stress, injury, and ultimately dead fish. Another challenge with pea puffers is their diet. They aren't your average flake food or pellet eaters, no. They require live or frozen foods such as bloodworms, brine shrimp, and snails keep their sharp little teeth in check. This makes them more difficult to care for in a community tank where feeding routines are typically more straightforward. So unless you're down to hand feed them their meals, and let's be real, most of us aren't, and unless you're psycho like me where I used to hand feed my saltwater eels, triggers, and lionfish, just the animals that would literally poison or maim me, pea puffers can become a logistical nightmare. For those brave enough to tackle their care, pea puffers thrive in species-specific tanks, where they can roam without the temptation to pick a fight. Give them plenty of space, live food, and maybe a tiny throne to rule from, because in their world, they're definitely the king. Male bettas are the divas of the fish world. Gorgeous, elegant, and absolutely full of attitude. With their flowing fins and vibrant colors, it's no surprise they're one of the most popular fish in the hobby. But don't let their beauty mask their dark side. Bettas have a temper. They're notorious for their aggression, especially towards other males or anything that happens to look like them. If you've ever seen a betta flare its gills, you know they mean business. One of the biggest issues with keeping male bettas in community tanks is their intolerance for anything that remotely resembles another betta. Fish with colorful or long fins, guppies for instance, are often mistaken for rivals. And the betta won't hesitate to go for the attack. And it's not just a case of casual fin nipping either, bettas can cause serious harm to other fish, leaving them injured or dead. Here's another issue that's not usually talked about. While they are aggressive to other males, they aren't as compatible as you think when it comes to other community fish. Many fish are too overactive, too nippy, or they might require different temperatures and water chemistry. That said, it's not impossible to keep a betta in a community tank, but the conditions need to be perfect. Tank mates must be carefully selected to avoid conflict, and the tank itself needs to have plenty of space and hiding spots to minimize aggression. Even then, keeping a betta in a community tank is a gamble, and it's one that many aquarists choose not to take. For those who want to enjoy the beauty of a betta without the drama, the best option is a species-only setup where the betta can be the undisputed star of the show. You can try tank mates, and for that I have an entire video for you to look at. It's another card at the top of this one. That being said, if you want a betta, the lowest risk betta is a short fin variety, or better yet, a female. Livebearers like mollies and swordtails are the rabbits of the fish world. Give them a tank and they'll quickly fill it with baby fish. While these species are often praised for their easygoing nature and vibrant colors, they come with one major challenge. They reproduce at an astonishing rate. If you're not prepared to manage their breeding, you could soon find your tank overcrowded with fry, turning your peaceful community into a daycare. One of the most frustrating things about livebearers is that they don't need much encouragement to breed. As long as you have a mix of males and females in the tank, nature will take its course, and before you know it, you'll have more baby mollies or swordtails than you know what to do with. Overcrowding then leads to poor water quality, stress, and even death amongst your fish, especially in smaller tanks where space is already limited. To prevent a population explosion, you're gonna need proactive measures. One option is to separate the males and females, which will stop the constant breeding cycle. Another option is to introduce a few predator fish that can help keep the fry population in check. Though this is a controversy amongst fish keepers who prefer to keep their young fish protected. Either way, without population control, livebearers will easily take over your tank. If you're not ready to deal with a full-blown fish nursery, you might want to reconsider adding livebearers, especially large ones, to your community tank. Yes, they're beautiful and fun to watch, but they require careful management to keep their numbers in check. If you want to try it, I would recommend either endlers or keeping only male guppies. Hachetfish are unique in appearance and behavior, making them a fascinating addition to any aquarium. But before you get too excited, there's something you need to know. Hachetfish are notorious jumpers. These sleek silverfish are literally built to leap out of the water, and they will do so if given the chance. If you don't have a secure lid on your tank, you're practically inviting disaster. There's a reason fish keepers joke that Hachetfish need a pilot's license, because they'll take off the moment they feel startled. This jumping behavior is a natural instinct for Hachetfish, helping them escape predators in the wild, but in an aquarium it can spell tragedy. Without a proper lid, they're likely to jump right out of the tank, leading to a very unfortunate discovery the next morning. Keeping a Hachetfish requires more than just a secure lid. They also need a calm environment with minimal stress, as they're more prone to leaping when anxious. And on top of these jumping tendencies, Hachetfish have some other quirks too. They tend to be shy and do best in groups, so you're gonna need to keep several of them together to help them feel secure. They also prefer dimly lit environments with plenty of floating plants to hide amongst. While they can make great community fish under the right conditions, their special care makes them a risky choice for beginner aquarists or those with open-topped tanks. If you're willing to put in the effort to create a secure, stress-free environment, Hachetfish can be an interesting and rewarding addition to your tank. But if you're not ready to commit to keeping them grounded, it's best to steer clear of these aerial acrobats. Goldfish are one of the most popular and recognizable species in the fish keeping hobby. From their bright colors to their charming personalities, it's easy to see why they've been a favorite for generations. But despite their widespread popularity, goldfish are not the easy, beginner-friendly fish that most people would make you believe them to be. In fact, keeping goldfish in a community tank can lead to some serious issues, starting with the fact that they're cold water fish while most community tanks house tropical species. Goldfish thrive in cooler water temperatures, which can create a significant compatibility issue if you're trying to keep them with tropical fish. The difference in temperature between tropical species and goldfish can cause stress and health problems for both them and their tank mates. Additionally, goldfish are messy eaters that produce a lot of waste, leading to higher ammonia levels in the water. Without strong filtration and regular water changes, this can quickly result in poor water quality, which is detrimental to the health of all the fish in the tank. Plants for the most part are a no-go as well because they'll either uproot them or eat them. Another thing to consider is that goldfish grow a lot. Many people make the mistake of buying goldfish when they're small, only to find out that they can quickly outgrow their tank. A fully grown, slim-bodied goldfish like a comet can easily reach over a foot, and they require a lot of space to swim, meaning your standard 10-gallon tank isn't gonna cut it. Goldfish need large tanks with plenty of filtration to accommodate their size and waste production. Other fancy varieties like bubble-eye goldfish require extra care too. Fancies are also bulky fish, and some varieties are so specifically bred that they can't compete with other fish when it comes to feeding. While goldfish are best kept with other cold water species, many fish keepers opt to create goldfish-only tanks where these beautiful fish can thrive without compatibility issues that come with a mixed community. If you're set on keeping goldfish, be prepared to give them the space and care that they need. They may be a bit high maintenance, but for those willing to put in the effort, goldfish can be a rewarding and long-lived addition to your home. Okay, so I know I didn't include every bad fish you could potentially help, but here's a breakdown on what makes fish unsuitable for community tanks if you happen to see a fish that strikes your fancy, either at the fish store or online. It isn't always the big scary fish that cause the most problems. Sometimes it's the smaller, sneakier ones that can wreak havoc. Territorial behavior is one of the major red flags. If a fish spends its time guarding one part of the tank and chasing others away, it's gonna stress out the entire community. Aggression is another big no-go. Some fish just love to bully their tank mates, picking on the smaller, slower fish or nipping at their fins for fun. A good example of these are various cichlids that exhibit territorial behavior. Size matters too. Fish that grow too large for the tank can make life miserable for everyone else, outcompeting for food, creating tons of waste, and generally making the space too cramped. Then there are the messy eaters and algae machines that turn your tank into a never-ending cleaning chore. Fish that have specific dietary needs or environmental preferences might also struggle in a typical community tank, adding stress to both you and your fish. And lastly, some species have a rapid breeding habit that can quickly turn your tank into an overpopulated mess, making it harder for you to manage and maintain a healthy environment. Livebearers are notorious for this, though there are other prolific breeders like convict cichlids that overpopulate a tank. And there you have it, some of the biggest troublemakers in the fish world. If you love this deep dive into fish keeping chaos, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on more fishy facts, expert tips, and everything you need to keep your tank swimming smoothly. Visit our website for more insights from our blog, or better yet, click on the next video to your right. Thanks for watching, and may your aquarium always be drama-free.